Half our net worth. Well, we rolled up our sleeves, we came together, and we got through that. You know, I know you have to save in the good times, and you have to cut spending in the bad times. Our government hadn't learned that. What's out of hand in Washington is, you know, Washington, we have a spending problem, not a revenue problem. I promise you, if you send me the Congress, I will work to cut spending. I will work to provide for a fair and equitable tax cut. And I will work to get the small business off the back. I'll get the government off the backs of our small business community. Folks, to do that, what we've got to do is create jobs. You know, you'll hear a lot of talk about job creators. Well, our company and our management group is taking substantial risks to create jobs, even in this economy. We know how to create jobs. We know how to balance the budget. If you give us the opportunity, we'll take those skills to Washington and get it done. Thank you.
Good question. First of all, you have to be a leader. I'm the only candidate that has been willing to say this. But first of all, I cut my own salary. I cut my own salary at least 20%. I believe you need to be a leader, not a follower. I believe that we need to cut each department at least 5 to 10% and work toward balancing the budget. Only department I will not cut would be defense. I would be in favor of doing away with the Department of Education completely. Also, I would do severe cuts to energy and EPA. I would encourage and work hard to get regulations and mandates off of our businesses so that they can create jobs and not government. We must do away with the education department so the teachers can teach, but they will not have the paperwork to do. So that they can get back in the classroom and do what their love is, and that's educate our children. It's simple, common sense situations, ladies and gentlemen, and that's what we got to get back to, is the basics. But foremost in all, I look to my Lord Jesus Christ for guidance and direction each and every day as I make decisions in Washington, D.C., as I do here in the great state of Georgia. And believe me, Evans County will be represented by me.
$16 trillion. That's what our children owe. We've kicked that can down the road long enough. We know, I know, you know, we all know that spending has to be cut. Today, our government has spent 10% more than it spent the same time last year. We're not cutting. We're spending more. When you graduate from the Naval Academy, you take an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We were pretty good on the foreign, but the threat that we as a nation face today is a domestic threat, and that threat is spending. Every year, it goes up, the debt, another $1.2, $1.3 trillion. Yes, there are going to be cuts. Some of those cuts are going to be drastic, like the Department of Education, Department of Energy, Department of Commerce. Defense, no, it's going to be spared. But we also know that we have to have personal responsibility in our nation. We have to bring that back. The entitlements make up 60% of what our federal government spends every single year. When you talk about cutting just discretionary programs, 5 to 10%, all you're doing is making the minimum payment on the credit card. The balance continues to go up. Now, I believe in smaller government. I believe in taking lots of the responsibilities that are now controlled by the federal government and putting them down on the states, on the counties. That's what the founding fathers envisioned 234 years ago today. You know, Clint Eastwood said, remember the halftime commercial at the Super Bowl? He said, the best is yet to come. And I believe it.
Thank you, Ryan. Maria, shut you up.
Financial instability in our country truly is a matter of national security, and this absolutely has to be a priority for us. If you look here in our 12th Congressional District, what the instability in our economy is doing, Jenkins County has had the highest rate of unemployment of any county, not just in our state, but in our country. $16 trillion. A $1.2 trillion deficit. What does that mean? That means we're spending $1.2 trillion a year more than our government is even bringing in revenue. That's simply unsustainable. We absolutely have to look at cutting departments like energy and education. Education, because we know that is best left to local governments to begin with. But think about the Department of Education. $78 billion. That's with a B. 5,000 employees in Washington, D.C. Just think about what $78 billion could do here in our communities for our schools. Politicians don't create jobs. So we have to create a pro-growth economy. And how do we do that? We do that by reforming our tax code, and I mean revolutionary, wholesale changes, not simply tweaking our code. Small business owners cannot plan for the future when people in Washington, D.C. are changing the tax code every 2 months. We also have to reduce the regulatory burden that there are on small businesses. That is the #1 problem that I hear as I'm going door to door on Main Street in every community we have in this district, is what can you do to get the government off my back? We have to remember that the government is supposed to work for us, not against us. And unfortunately, liberals in Washington, D.C. have moved us down the path of socialism. You know, the problem with socialism, as Margaret Thatcher taught us, is you eventually run out of someone else's money.
Thank you, Maria. The next